Need help picking the best, the safest car for your new teenage driver? That's next on Talking Cars. Hi there, and welcome to Talking Cars with Consumer Reports. I'm Tom Muchler.
I'm Jake Fisher.
And I'm Jennifer Stockberger.
One of the most common questions we've gotten through all the episodes doing Talking Cars is looking for advice on buying cars for teens. We get lots and lots of questions. So we want to do this episode. It's nearly back to school season. We want to do this episode to talk about how to pick the best, the safest car for your teen. Jen, why is it important?
It's important because the truth, they're just not good drivers yet. They don't have the experience behind them. People have even said there's cognitive issues. Their reasoning and their judgment is not as good as it is when they're an adult. So you have to kind of cover for them with a decent car underneath.
But kids have better reflexes, don't they, from playing all the video games?
They do. Hand-eye coordination, absolutely. I mean, the truth is you can't. I mean, look, when I was a teenager, I was invincible, or I was the best driver around. And in fact, I think if you poll teenage drivers, I think 95% of them are better than average, self-reported.
Like Wobegon.
Yes, exactly.
Sorry for the NPR humor.
Teens don't get the NPR humor. I just want to throw that out there.
But hopefully their parents do.
Right.
Probably. But look, I mean, the statistics don't lie. I mean, the truth is, especially young males, I have been one once, and I know how I drove.
Yes.
But
you'd be amazed how well Pontiac 6000 will go off-road.
Yeah.
The statistics are they are much more likely to be involved in accidents.
Right. So, what are the basics? What are the very basics that you should get nowadays for a car that your newly minted driver teen is going to get?
Okay, so the stuff that's generally agreed upon by pretty much anybody who references this subject is a couple of things. One is you kind of like a Goldilocks, you don't buy the car that's too fast or too slow. Mm-hmm. So number one, reasonably speed. You don't get your new teen driver the hot car, for example. No. The other thing that's pretty well agreed upon is that electronic stability control, ESC, is a must.
And that's statistically proven.
Proven,
I mean, over the years, the math has worked out that it does save lives.
Right, it does save lives. It saves lives for every population. The potential for it to save even additional percentage of teen lives is even greater.
Why is it so important for teens to have stability control?
Well, stability control, I mean, it's the greatest thing since, I was going to say sliced bread, but since the seatbelt. I mean, in terms of car safety, it's amazing. Because what it does is it doesn't protect you in the accident, it avoids the accident altogether. So, if you drive a car without stability control, everyone knows these situations. You go around a corner and the tail slides out and car's spinning.
Steer into the skid.
Or out towards the corner, or
even
trying
poor
to
weather.
Where I want to go.
Even poor weather.
None of that happens anymore with stability control because the car goes where you need to go.
Right.
And it's not one of these things where it's like, well, I'm a really good driver, so I don't need it. The stability control system does things that you cannot physically do. I don't care if you are Mario Andretti. I'll fill in your great race car driver. But you do not have 4 brake pedals that could individually hit each one of those wheels. So what it does is it actually will stop. It'll hit the front left or the rear left to get the car straight so it doesn't spin. And it makes the car so much safer.
And if you think about it, teens can especially use this because they don't have the experience of driving. And
they've got good reflexes. Anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
But they come in too fast. They don't
have
that judgment. They don't have the experience to say, oh, these conditions are this. I'm coming in a little hot. I'm going to slow it down. They don't know until it's too late.
Right.
That they've come in too hot. So, yeah.
Right.
Now, what we've seen over the episodes of doing this, and in our own personal experiences, is that there are common mistakes people make when buying cars for teens. So we're gonna go through some of the list and look at actually some of the YouTube comments we've gotten over the last many shows to point this out. First of all, pickup trucks.
Pickup trucks.
Young boys like pickup trucks. From MacBook Pro 57. I'm a 19-year-old and drive a 2012 Tundra with no issues, and everyone at my old high school drove pickup trucks. I don't see a problem with a teenager driving a truck who's responsible unless it's a stupid teenager.
Right. So
why are pickup trucks a bad idea?
Pickup trucks, I mean, you just come back to our data. So you look at things that, again, you go back to that philosophy of avoiding the crash in the first place. Mm-hmm. They don't brake as well, and they really don't handle as well as something a little bit smaller, a little bit heavier in the rear. They're just not a good handling vehicle overall.
They also tend to roll over, don't they?
Higher center of gravity.
Higher center of gravity.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, one of the most dangerous vehicles is a pickup truck because young male driver in a pickup truck is one of the highest risks of having a fatal accident.
Right, and I would agree with you. I have a 15-year-old daughter, so I'm almost in this conversation myself as a parent. I drop her off at high school, and it's a row of pickup trucks. And I go, that's not the greatest car. So
I'm sure they're older trucks, no stability control.
They are older trucks because they can't afford. I mean, this is great. This is a 2012 Tundra.
Well, I mean,
in this conversation, but most of them are not. I mean, I'm talking like mid-90s, if not
trucks,
later.
Forget about stability control. We're talking cars with no ABS
no
brakes.
brakes.
Often rear-wheel drive or a part-time system where the rear tires light up and the tail end is sliding
Probably
around.
no curtain airbags.
No curtain airbags.
Right. The least safety equipment.
Some of them not even airbags, because then they're in these early 90s pickups that they can afford that look, I will tell you, they look awesome. They're cool, but they're not the right car.
Also, a Tundra with a 5.7, that thing, you can go drag racing Camaros with that.
That would
thing.
probably not meet our too fast or too slow criteria.
It might not. Another mistake people make is they buy super cheap new cars. Okay, I'm going to get someone a new car. It will have stability control, we'll have all the airbags, but gosh, I don't want to spend that much money, so I'll get my kid a Mitsubishi Mirage. I'll get them a Chevy Spark. It comes in bright colors and has a nice stereo.
Right.
Why is that?
So again, we come back. These would be cars that not only err to the little bit too slow side. We're talking about merging, starting at an intersection. They might be on that too slow, typically very small displacement engines. But and again, you are getting the stability control, but it's a very small package. I mean, we can talk to, I think that's a great conversation, is this mass differential. In a crash, they don't have the mass behind them.
Well, mass always comes up because you have
mass
the thought.
Mass is huge, and I think
mass literally is huge.
Right.
But you have
conversation.
Yeah, you have the thought of, okay, I don't have a lot of money. I will buy them an old tank. I will buy them the old Volvo 240 because Volvos are safe. I'll buy them Grandpa's old Grand Marquis, or Ford LTD Crown Victoria, an old cop car.
Look, I mean, in the 70s and the 80s, those big Volvos, those were safe cars at the time. The issue is that of the time, and crash safety and everything has changed so much. So a new, just run-of-the-mill vehicle, it's going to be a better, safer car than those cars. Plus, you're dealing with these old cars. Things break. Things aren't working. Perhaps the brakes aren't working as good as they're supposed to be. There's all different types of issues. It's not the safest car. It's not the best option.
No, old Crown Victorias are horrible inside crash. Just really, really bad. Also, again, you're certainly not getting stability control or anything like that.
And you have to caution. I will caution. I mean, people can go back and look at crash ratings. Those, again, were of the time. Even the tests have gotten more stringent. So even if they did well in their crash tests of the time, it's not the crash tests that newer cars are facing today.
I owned a series of old Volvos.
Right.
I would much rather have a crash in this Toyota Corolla behind me, this modern Corolla, than a 15-year-old.
Even though it did very well for its time.
Yeah, for its time, it was great. But the time has marched on.
Right.
Let's face it, money's an issue.
Yep.
Parents don't want to spend a lot of money. Here's a sample letter from B. Rad. If and when you do a video on cars for teenagers, keep in mind that most parents who buy cars for their kids and budgets are extremely tight. Doing a video for cars that are 10 grand or more would be nearly pointless. Instead, try to focus on cars that are cheap as possible, but still safe and reliable. So, where can you get? How much is it going to cost? What's the cost of entry?
Okay, so this gets back to our ESC conversation. ESC 09 and later, that's where you start to see that on many more new vehicles. Unfortunately, I think their point is real. At that $5,000 price point, there's not many vehicles out there that you're going to get that ESC option.
Now, we went back and looked, and probably where you're going to start getting it in a car that's reliable, had okay crash tests, had standard stability control. It's like a 2006 Hyundai Sonata.
Right.
Hyundai was ahead of their time in putting stability control on cars.
So you're at the 8 to 10 range.
Well, let me throw out another piece of advice. And what the option is that don't buy your teen a new car or a used car. Buy yourself a new car, and then your car, and give it to your teen.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because you could wind up giving your teen a much more value car. Because when you go and say you're buying a new car and you trade it in, you know what happens. You get lowballed, right? I mean, you're not going to get from a dealership if you trade in your car what you would get on the open market or what you would buy that car at retail. So say a dealer might give you $5,000 for a trade-in. You buy a new car, give that car, which is probably worth 7 or 8 on the open market, give that car to your teen. Plus, the great thing about that is you know the history of that car.
Right.
You're not buying a used car where you don't know what's happened to the car or how it's been serviced.
Of course, you don't want to do that with your Subaru WRX or your Scion FRS.
Right. Again, go back to the base
Right.
criteria.
I mean,
right.
obviously, assuming that the
Right.
car that you have is a good team car.
Right, if you, especially if you have, say, a 5 or 6 year old mid-size sedan with stability control, you know, maybe you upgrade to a new car.
Absolutely.
They get that other car.
I'll take that one crazier thought further, is that there is a school of thought that says, as the more experienced driver, as the more attentive driver, as the better judgment driver, you take the older car. And actually, I know
How many people are going to be willing to do
they're
that?
not. They're not.
I mean, in a
Many won't.
perfect world.
But in a
run
perfect world, I
by-
mean, it's just to put out
run
there,
by
put it in
Spock,
your,
yes.
your mental thought tank, you would be the better person to have the older vehicle with the less safety features than your team. Just putting it out there.
I mean, people aren't going to be willing to do that because chances are your teen's going to crash.
At least have a fender
crash
bender,
your new
right?
car.
A near miss, yeah.
Yeah, and you're paying insurance then for them
Yes,
to have
you
a
are.
brand new car.
Yes, you are.
So yeah, there's a lot of wrinkles there.
Yep.
You know, we have a list of good cars for teens on consumerreports.org. We're not going to go through the list here. It's extensive. We'll forget something. We greatly encourage you to go and look it up. But a couple years back, we used to keep SUVs off the list. We had a blanket statement,
Right.
no
No
SUVs,
SUVs.
they're more likely to roll over, bad.
And no ASC at the time, right?
But we've changed.
Mm-hmm.
Things have evolved.
Now, SUVs have evolved too.
right.
In what way?
Well, I mean, look, way back when, SUVs were basically pickup trucks with a cap on and some seats. Today, SUVs, they're wagons. I mean, don't tell the marketing arms of any of the car manufacturers, they don't want you to know that. But basically, they're the new station wagons. They're taller, but they're station wagons. They drive like cars. They are cars.
And that's reflected in our numbers for handling.
They
and
drive like
all
cars.
that.
They
Yeah.
handle well. They stop
Right.
well. They do a lot of things. They, stability controls across the board on these cars. So there really are kind of very good options for people.
So a late model Subaru Forester, a late
Yep.
model Honda CR-V.
Right. They're on the list. They're very good.
Got a whole
Yep.
lot more in common
Right.
with a Impreza than it has to do with a Tacoma. You know?
Now, I will say,
You can take it too far though. can't
Yes,
you, in the SUV world?
right. We do you won't see the large SUVs on there, and you won't see minivans on there, believe it or not.
But those
even though
cars statistically are very safe.
very safe. The reason we leave them off is there's a lot of data out there that says, and it's part of the basis for the graduated licensing limitations, that says the more passengers your teen driver has in the car, the increased crash risk. So we don't want this minivan party car all loaded up with a bunch of your friends, or a large SUV that probably has the option for a third row. So they're beyond their graduated licensing. Now they got room for 7. They've just taken their crash risk through the
Everyone
roof.
just needs to kind of jog their memories. I remember when you were a teenager.
Right.
I remember we're all piled in my friend's Golf. I mean,
Right.
I can't even imagine it.
As many as you could fit.
Can you
right.
imagine giving them a Chevy Traverse?
Oh my God,
Yes.
I can't even imagine.
And again, you talk about center of gravity. You take that and now load it up
Right.
with 6 or 7 young men at 200 pounds apiece, and you've really taken that center
All
of
of them
gravity
having
out.
conversations, all of them being
Right.
distracting.
All of them showing off.
Right.
Right.
Not to mention just having a new driver trying to maneuver this
Right.
big
Right.
chunk of vehicle around.
So you won't see those higher passenger capacity vehicles on our list, despite the mass, because of the high density.
The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, last month they put out
Yep.
their list of safe car. It is very crash test, that's their wheelhouse. That is what they do.
Right.
You know, they included large SUVs and large minivans. We've explained why we don't. They also left off small cars, but we think that if you're buying new, if you have the budget, a Corolla or a new Mazda 3 isn't a bad choice.
Right.
Why the disparity?
The disparity comes in what you can buy for the money. Or what safety features you can get for the money. So, and I think the base philosophy between the two lists differs in that, again, we are looking to avoid, as much as we can, avoid the crash. Theirs would be more skewed towards surviving the crash.
There's another variable here, and it's also reliability.
Right.
Consumer Reports, we think you should buy a reliable car. There's no question, you could buy an older, good mid-size. You could buy an older mid-size car. You could buy an Audi A6. You could buy a BMW 3 Series. You could buy a luxury car. That's where you started to get stability control.
Sooner.
Curtain bags
Right.
in sooner. But there's problems with that, as pointed out by this letter. To buying your son a $9,000 luxury car, simply don't. Gas, insurance, repairs, and maintenance will eat your family. Bad things happen. Think about premium gas, where you'll find parts and who will do its service. People might be thinking luxury because of added safety, but you only want to lease European cars when they have warranties. So, I mean, yeah, you know, you could buy a 15-year-old BMW 3 Series with stability control and curtain bags, but...
Well, I'll throw a few things onto that list of reasons not to do it, but also think about in terms of reliability, in terms of how that cross-sections with safety. So, I mean, if you have a mechanical problem with your car and it's driving and there's a thump up, you know, in the axle or something like that, it could actually cause an accident.
Right.
If you have a problem with your brakes, it could cause an accident. And think about your teen stranded somewhere, maybe in a great section of town, and suddenly the car stopped and they're sitting there, you know, looking around and looking for help. So that's something you want to avoid.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the Insurance Institute, they said, you know, one of the safest cars, and I don't doubt them, they are right. One of the safest cars you could buy on a budget is a 2005 Volvo XC90.
Right.
I'm sure it's safe when you crash it, but that can't be the only thing good about a car.
No, and you talk about, you're already on a budget. You've already extended yourself to even get this car. You don't have a lot of spare to do all these additional
You've now gotten
repairs.
a new hobby keeping this
absolutely.
10-year-old Volvo
Unless
running.
that's what you want, but yeah, you're going to spend some time keeping it maintained. Absolutely.
So let's wrap it up. What basically should you look for? Where's the sweet spot of cars for teens?
Where if you look at our list, the sweet spot comes in mid-size sedans, typically 4-cylinder, not 6-cylinder versions because they're too quick. As much safety as you can possibly afford. Hopefully ESC, you know, that's almost a must. And then, you know, a reliable, which is why most of those cars are on. And why our list is much shorter than something like the IHS list.
And there's one other piece of the puzzle. It's the nut behind the wheel. Okay, if you can do anything to make your teen a safer driver, and there are programs available, and not just talking about how to get your license, we're talking about how to survive the drive. Okay, so we have here, we volunteer our track with a joint program with Street Survival. They do things across the country. There are many other things that teach teens how to deal with these situations, and we volunteer in these types of programs all the time. If you could get your kid in a program like this and teach them what to do, how to slam on the brakes if they need to, how to avoid an accident, do it.
And I'll take that one. Driver's ed is not going to cut it. They don't get into this defensive or you're in trouble kind of situations. They don't cut it. So even if you have the opportunity, if you have an empty parking lot or somewhere where
the snowy parking lots,
you can expose
without
your
the
kid,
light poles,
without the light poles, without the
you know,
try and do that. That's a great opportunity.
Yeah, because without children having this experience, they don't know what happens when you floor that pedal to the floor and the anti-lock brake
Right, they don't even know what that feels like until they feel it, and then they lift, which is the exact wrong thing to do. So yeah.
So that's great advice. We hope that this helped you a lot for picking the best car for your teen. So as always, thank you for listening.